Movement from the team, right? A lot of movement from the players as well. First, I start as center back, then move a bit more into midfield. Arda Güler as central midfielder, defensive midfielder, then a bit further up. What are you aiming for with that?
Yes, at the beginning, with Aurelio a bit too deep, we had too many people behind the ball, right? And so, since they only had one striker, we wanted to push someone a bit further forward and build out from the back with two center backs because, well, they were sitting very deep. They changed their usual approach a bit. Juve is usually a very aggressive team in the opponent's half, but today they sat back more and we had one extra player, right? So then we set up with a double six with Arda and Aurel, the two center backs giving a bit of support and moving the play around a bit, because through the middle, every time we tried to play the ball in there too quickly, they would counter fast with Colomwani, and that's basically how the clearest chance at the start came about. And, well, it's about moving pieces around, and I think today it worked out well. We got it right.
And in that pressing, after losing the ball, especially in the first half, the wing backs being so deep allowed Juve to break out of that pressure more easily? Or was it that you actually wanted them that deep?
No, once we've progressed, they need to be a bit higher up to be more aggressive, right? That's where we have to be brave. We have to try to suffocate them so they can get out, Not be timid and then adjust on the opposite side, right? That's it. That's fundamental. Like I said, we were expecting a Juve that would be a bit more aggressive in the opponent's half, like they've been doing both in Serie A and in these three matches against City as well. Today they've changed a bit, and that's why, well, we haven't had much time, but you start to notice things, make adjustments, and tomorrow we'll go over it again so that we all understand it well.
Real Madrid set up in a 5-2-3. We got a back 5, 2, and a 3 over here. Basically, we got Tchouaméni here, Hausen, Rudiger, Trent Alexander. He moves up forward, sometimes tucks inside. Got a double pivot of Arda Güler and Valverde. And then we have Fran Garcia is providing the width over here. And then Vinny and Bellingham, who's also tucking in. So Vinny and Bellingham behind the striker. Garcia moves up top. At Juve, we got Kelly, Rugani, Kalulu, Costa, Locatelli, and Thuram. Cambioso. We got Yildiz and Canseco, and then Colomani is the striker. As Alonso says that there were too many Real Madrid players behind the ball. So they're in this zone over here, and that's where they were playing most of their game in the first half. Juventus, they caught Alonso by surprise, and that was because of their single center forward and because they sat in the low block. Normally, Juventus, they play a very high aggressive possession game, but in this match, what they did was they sat in a low block and they counterattacked, and that's how they got their early chance with Colomani getting the ball, and he ended up shooting it over the top of the goal. So now when Arda Güler has the ball, he was roaming around, and he's the free man basically. So he's the creator, the Modric type guy. Because of Juventus's low block, what was happening with Real Madrid was that, for example, if Arda Güler has the ball, they didn't have many options other than, for example, if this guy moves in here or he moves in here and he has that passing lane, the only option for this guy or this guy over here, or even if he moves here, is that they can't really do much about it and except pass back and recycle the ball. In most of the game, Güler, who was the creator, had no progressive options through the central areas of the pitch. And because of that, they had to play wide. And that's what Alonso says. Every time we tried to play ball through the middle to quickly create those chances, like for example, if he gets the ball here and he lobs it over and Garcia makes the run, that stuff wasn't happening. And every time they do that and they lose the ball, they would be countered. With few options through the center, well, the obvious play would be to use the wide channels, and that was being provided by Fran Garcia as well as Trent Alexander-Arnold because Bellingham was also moving inside. because of Juventus's defensive shape, the wide players were basically left isolated. Another major problem was that at Liverpool, what Trent does is that he is making these wide progressive moves, but he's supported by Mohamed Salah over here. And over here in Xabi Alonso's tactics, Bellingham, who's not a natural winger, was being forced to play in the midfield, forming this four sort of a box in the middle. And so whenever Trent got the ball, there was no support zone here that he got with Mohamed Salah because he would pass the ball to Salah, make that run, and Salah, being a dribbler, would either cut inside or make that ball here, and Trent would then connect. So over here, there was nobody here. And so Trent was basically isolated. And that is one of the flaws in the tactic. So if, for example, they had Frimpong, this would be a totally different situation the way it was happening at Leverkusen. So that's something they're still trying to figure out. Now they could play Rodrigo and all that, but they did in one of the earlier matches in this tournament. But they have issues over there because it's either not working out or there were rumors that Rodrigo wanted to leave. So there are a lot of hosts of things going on. And so if Trent is basically the winger in Xabi Alonso's tactical system at Madrid, then this is the player that comes into action because Bellingham would have to sprint back and forth, doing defensive duties as well. So this guy Rudiger, he'd have to be up here, and so when Trent is one v one over here, Rudiger's over here. He's basically a defensive guy. He's a pure defender. Rudiger's traits basically do not assist the attack, and that is a huge problem over here. And because of this isolation over here, it came Juventus' best chance of the game, although they have Yildiz, Colomani, who were providing a lot of threat. But it's about the end product, and that is something I believe that Juve might be lacking. So Trent loses the ball in a 1v1 situation here because they have three players marking the defensive line. So Real Madrid they don't organize a strong rest defense, and for that to have a good rest defense, if you're playing a high line like Xabi Alonso wants them to, if you're not gonna press high very aggressively, even without, you can't delay that press because these guys are mostly defensive people, so they don't. Because of Ancelotti's style, where Real Madrid used to play over here, they're not used to doing that aggressive counter press as a muscle memory reflex sort of a situation. So Juventus counterattacked and they broke through. And in Alonso's words, Real Madrid were unable to suffocate Juventus enough, and that is why in the first half Juventus did have chances.